Hi, and welcome back to ExploreAStory. I'm Emily Grassley, coming to you from the Field Museum in Chicago. This is the second part of the live recordings we made during our meetup at the Museum for Naturkunde back in January, where we asked visitors to share a time they had a memorable experience in a museum, in nature, or just exploring the world around them. So thanks to everyone who participated, and I hope you enjoy.
Hi, my name is Otto. I'm also from Berlin, born and raised, so I'm one of those mythical Berliners. Original.
Here he is, in the flesh.
And my exploration story started actually when I was very little. I remember vividly I visited my grandparents very often, and they had a book called Earth and Space. And it was basically the history of Earth with all the dinosaurs. And as a kid, I loved the dinosaurs, and I really read in parentheses, the book every time I was there, and especially the dinosaurs fascinated me. So they said, do you want to see some? And I was like, yeah, sure. So they took me here to the Natural Museum, and I remember we came through the front entrance, and you, as you already saw, you immediately see the Brontosaurus, was it called, back there?
Yeah, it's the giraffe and titan now, I think.
So, and I was like mind blown because you can see something in a book, but you don't get the real scales. And as a kid, I was like, whoa, that's huge. And that's what I love about museums and zoos, that they kind of put things in perspective for everyone that visits there.
Yeah, and dinosaurs were gigantic.
Yes.
Yes, I'm thinking, like, can you imagine a herd of sauropods or Brachiosaurus, like, just making their way through a valley? I mean, think about how loud it would be.
Yeah, but I also would like to see it just for the point of how fast are they?
Yeah.
Is it like, are they really slow moving, or is it like elephants which can be really fast?
Right, yeah. I wouldn't get
sudden?
charged by a Brachiosaurus. That's my favorite question to ask paleontologists. If they had a time machine and could go back, what would they be looking for? And sometimes they're like, well, for instance, we don't even know what color any of these things really were. And you're like, wow, what if they were like Technicolor colors like birds of paradise, or had like crazy plumes on their heads? Or what if the T-Rex had like a big waddle like a turkey? You know, would that make it more or less terrifying? I think more.
Yeah, or like the Archaeopteryx we have here. That's like dinosaurs had feathers. Like, what?
Yeah.
But they should be flat skin like an elephant or something.
Yeah.
No, but
Nah, nature's like, we don't play by those rules. Like feathers, turkey waddles, anything goes. That's cool.
Yeah,
I want a time machine, guys. Anybody? Where's that physicist? Can he make that happen? Great. Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Thuy An. I'm from Berlin. And my explore story is about butterflies, blue butterflies.
Okay.
So when I was a kid, I liked the color blue and butterflies. So when we had a garden, and I kept looking at blue butterflies, but I couldn't see them because they're yellow butterflies, white one, black one, but no blue one. So I was a bit sad. And what my mother did was she took me to the museum. And at that time I was a kid, so I didn't know anything about museum. I was expecting it to be a zoo.
Yeah.
So when I came, there were so beautiful blue butterflies, but the problem was they were dead. So I was a bit disappointed and a bit sad, but then there was this man working at the museum, and he saw me being a little sad, and so he kept talking to me, and he explained to me, and he told me actually like blue butterflies, they are very rare in the nature, and the color is not because of the pigment, mostly about the structure, and it was so like mind-blowing, and I kept asking him questions and questions and questions, so at the end it turned out to be a very, very mind-blowing experience at the museum. Mm-hmm. So now I have a little daughter, and now we have Google, and internet, and we can look at everything in the internet. But what I very like to do is to take my daughter to the museum and to talk to the people there. And and then many more questions will come. Mm-hmm. So that was my my explore story.
That's great. Yeah, and every time you see a blue butterfly now, you're going to be like, I know what your wing structure looks like.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Thank you.
Neat.
Yes.
I like
Can
blue
I have a
butterflies.
picture?
Yeah.
And
When we were in Peru, you would see some
Yes.
of these blue morpho butterflies, but
Yes.
when they have their wings closed, they're
Yes.
brown, and so it's like seeing a fairy or something, because you'll just see like a flash of blue that
Yes,
just kind of
not-
goes like boom, boom. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like incredibly dehydrated, and you're like, what was that? Ugh. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. I'm Paulo. I'm from Brazil. I'm studying biology here in Berlin. And my ExploreAStory was back in Brazil. I was volunteering at the Natural History Museum, inspired by you.
Thank
at
you.
at the ornithology sector. And a few weeks in there, one of the scientists came to me and said, "Oh, we're doing a field work in some weeks. Do you want to come along?" And I was, "Yeah, sure." So I went with like 10 scientists, like really awesome scientists, to the middle of the jungle to camp there. And we got up like really early in the morning. We went into the trees and stuff. And it was so awesome because when you heard like a peep way in the distance, they instantly knew the scientific name. Oh, there's the thing, the Prachnus nudicollis. And you were like, what? I didn't even hear anything. And it was really mind-blowing to just realize how much life is there and how you can really like know what it really is.
Yeah.
So that's what got me interested in birds, and I'm really interested in birds now.
Yeah, birds are great.
I know, right?
Yeah, birds. Yeah, that's really special. Yeah, thank you.
I want a picture too.
Yeah, ornithologists who can like detect bird calls. It's like you're hanging out with a superhero or something, because you'll be talking mid-sentence and then they'll be like, psst, like, that's North American robin, and you're like, what? Who? Like, what are you even listening to me? And then they're like, no, and then they walk off. You're like, where are you going? We have a meeting. And they're like, there's a flock of parrots. You're like, I guess we won't meet. That was a true story, actually. That happened to me once with an ornithologist.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to be now.
Yeah, cool. Well, if you're here in Berlin, you should do the Nightingale Project.
I will.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, nightingales. Hello. Whoops. Hi.
So, yeah, my name is Fritz. I'm from Greifswald in Germany, and this is my ExploreAStory, I guess. So it takes place at the competition, so I'll be thrown out after. But
The competition.
yeah, when I was about 4 to 5 years old as a little kid, we used to go to the Senckenberg Museum in Frankfurt quite a lot, and they had fabulous exhibits like dinosaurs. Just blew my mind in scale and everything. So cool. But there was this one exhibit that just really captivated me every time we went there. It got to the point where I would just dash right there and spend hours there. My mom would just wander around with my sister, everything perfectly in order, because she knew where to find me. It was the volcanoes and the plate tectonics, because they had this one model where you could press buttons and it would rumble. It would essentially simulate a volcano eruption, I guess, lights flickering, everything. So cool. Little did I know back then that about a decade and a half later, I'd find myself in Iceland studying geothermal energy, and yeah, sort of having come full circle. I guess the signs were there fairly early on. So yeah,
That's exciting.
museums.
Yeah, museums. Yeah, that's so exciting. So you've seen volcanoes erupt.
No, sadly
No?
not. I had my seat booked in the car with a friend and everything, because it would have gone there like first row, but
Yeah.
no.
Oh, man.
Nothing happened. Get it
Oh.
together, Iceland.
Yeah.
But
That's really amazing. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, these are making me a little emotional, you guys. That's Henning! Henning has been making fan art for the Brain Scoop for like 5 years. Then he designed a sticker that we sell in the DFTBA work. Yay, Henning! Yay!
Finally, we meet.
Yay! Finally, he came from Sweden.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so far. Also, I'm so happy to see your beard is just as magnificent in life as it is in pictures.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's important to say it because it's a podcast.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yes, Henning's beard is majestic in nature. He could be a wizard. We're not sure. Probably a wizard.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking the interaction I had when I was just a kid, like 9 years old. We went to the regional museum, and they had this crossover exhibit between art and the natural science, where I think the artist had roamed around the collections. Mm-hmm. And there was this really weird part where there was a fetus or twin fetuses in AR, mm-hmm. in spirits, and there was this text kind of saying, "I just wait here listening to the fishes."
What?
And that kind of really, really stuck with me because it was so weird. And of course, I think it's amazing that you can just, with the little mix-up between worlds, make something that is so strange. Because it is strange to a kid to watch a little baby in a jar.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah.
But this kind of helped somehow point out the immensity of the weirdness in the situation.
Yeah.
So I think more mix-up should be great.
A little self-reflective weirdness. It's like, this is going to be weird one way or another. Let's just make it extra weird.
Yeah.
And put a funny, what? Yeah, that is very weird.
And the memory of it is kind of vague. Sometimes I think they were Siamese twins, but I don't think this little museum had access. But I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and ask.
Kind of seems like a dream almost.
Yeah.
Like, did I dream that? It's too weird.
It's too weird to have dreamt it, I think. So that was what I wanted to share.
Yeah, well, museum experiences, they stick with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Henning. I'm so glad you're here. I love your Beatles shirt. Come on, I love a Beatles shirt. Hello. Hi.
I'm also a great fan of Brain Scoop.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and of you, of course.
Thank you. Do you give your name really quick?
Katarina Botvid. I'm from Sweden, and my experience around this whole thing, put dead animals or fetuses in jars and everything, has always been very interesting to me. I have, been at museums with my family, and I was always the one that stayed behind. I was never left at the museum.
Yeah.
But I was so frustrated because I'm a person that wants to touch things. Mm-hmm. So all those glass, everywhere, boxes, glass, jars, everything. So I wanted so much to know what the feeling of this animal or everything was. So I had to, after I was an artist and a ceramist, I had to educate myself to get in behind the glasses.
Yeah.
And the first time I did was 2009 when I was doing archaeology studies. And the first time I really got to the box behind the glass and I could touch it, it was like a holy moment. And that is people's everyday work. And I was about 45, 50 years old, and I had conquered those walls of glass, and that is amazing. Yeah. And now I do it all the time, so it's just every day's work.
Is it still amazing, though?
Yeah, but it is amazing.
Yeah.
When I feel assured and I can find a child working very good with ceramics, I start to cry. So I'm always getting this feeling.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Museums are magical.
Yeah, they are.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Nick. I'm from Würzburg, Germany. And actually, I'm going to share a sad story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've been to the EaS a few times now, and I actually was fortunate enough to be able to visit the Field Museum about 2 years ago. And I took a guided tour, and we went upstairs to the extinction event. And the tour guide told me that we're currently in the 6th extinction event in the world. And what hit me really hard was that nobody is caring about these extinctions. What really influenced me was that there are actually people approaching him and telling him he's lying because they're believing evolution is alive for religious reasons and promoting creationism and so on. And it really hit me that we have these amazing museums and they're putting stuff on display more or less for free, and people are going there and ignoring the information which is present, and it was a very sad story. But it kind of has a happy end. Next day I went to the museum on the other side, the space whatever museum.
Yeah, the planetarium.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And there were volunteers outside, and they had a special event day, and there were so many people, and they made me happy again because there were so many enthusiastic scientists, and they showed me space stuff and so on, and I got to talk with physicists, and they made me happy again. But and I guess you are working too in media outreach to help people realize
the world is in danger.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the purpose of why we like to make educational videos, is because while we are facing a lot of really gigantic global challenges in terms of climate change and species extinction, I've always personally thought that positivity and optimism was more motivating than negativity. If you can still remain hopeful and excited about the future and feel like you can make a positive contribution, I think that's really important to hold on to. So, it's easy to get kind of bummed out, I think, when it feels so overwhelming, or you don't know that you don't think you can make a difference or whatever. But honestly, just showing up and remaining hopeful is its own form of resistance.
And seeing how many people are here and are enjoying science, and all these stories so far were positive stories. It's kind of nice that there are reasonable people left.
Yes, there are. I found them all. Here they are.
Go
it's not
museums.
True. Go museums. Yeah, museums. Hello.
Hello. So I'm Robin. I'm from Munich. And my story, it happened not too long ago. So I did a course about arthropods. And it was all about arthropods.
Oh, okay.
And so one of the weeks we looked at a lot of larvae of different crustaceans, and they're so weird.
Yeah.
Like crazy. But we only had the light microscopes. And then the next week we went to the Zoological Staatssammlung, the collection in Munich. And then they let us use the scanning electron microscope.
What?
So we got in really close, and you could see how odd they look, but they're so, they look so intricate, and they look totally different from the adult ones. Yeah. And then we used the microscope, and I took pictures, but I forgot to save them, so I don't have them anymore.
Oh, no.
But it was really cool to just see them so up close.
Yeah.
And that was really amazing.
That's what I love about the giant insect models. Did you see those when we were walking through here? Yeah, those were made like in the 30s and 40s by an entomologist who wanted to bring people or give them a closer view of insect life. And like when you take, a mite or a mosquito or a fly and you scale it up 1,000 times, I mean, they truly look like alien creatures, but they are incredibly detailed and intricate, and it's pretty amazing.
Like you can look at the eyes and you see every single bit of the eye.
Or they have like a bunch of cells on their eyes and you're like, how'd you get all those? How'd you fit all that in there? I don't understand. How did this evolve?
Yeah, it's so
then
weird.
Over hundreds of millions of years. We interviewed a fossil spider expert here at the museum, Jason Dunlap. He for one of the videos that we're producing, and it was just amazing to talk with him about like spider evolution and the specimens that he's looking at fossilized in amber, because you look at them in amber and they look like a modern day spider, but you're holding it knowing that it was like 100 million years old, living underneath and on the trees or on the bark of the trees of like what the dinosaurs were eating, right? Like we're like, oh my gosh, dinosaurs are amazing, but it's like, wow, this fossil spider was hanging out with dinosaurs. What about that spider? I want to know his story. Like that's crazy. Arthropods.
I'm gonna do my bachelor's thesis about sawfly larvae in amber.
Neat.
And yesterday I got to see them finally. It was really amazing. You could see the hairs on them.
Wow.
And everything.
Gosh. Nature's so cool. That's neat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yay, nature.
Hello, I'm Katrin from Berlin, and what I like is the structure of things I see in museums, because you cannot see them when you're outside. Butterflies just vanish.
Yeah.
And those dinosaurs, the little ones, you see in the stones. I like them.
Yeah, I mean, you get to be up close in nature. When I first started volunteering at the University of Montana Zoological Museum, it was like someone handed me a bear skull, because it was just kind of like, hey, can you take this? And all of a sudden I'm holding the skull of a bear, and you're like, this is as close as I ever want to be to a bear. Like it's holding its skull, but then you can see their teeth, and you can imagine like their bite force, and like this was an animal that was hanging out. Like it had a story and a history, and I think that's ultimately what got me into museums, is because you can be so close to nature and be like, oh, it's right here. It's actually not out there. It's all around us. It's very close. Museums let you touch it, poke at it, and feel its really sharp teeth. And you're like, I'm glad this is happening in this environment and not outside in the national park. experiencing this for myself while my leg gets eaten by a bear. Yeah, just glad that anyway. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Same thing with T-Rexes. I don't want a time machine to go back and see those. Terrifying. Hi.
Hi there. So I'm Matt from sometimes England, sometimes Scotland.
Okay.
And
Hi, Max from sometimes England, sometimes Scotland.
yeah, and my Explore story is about how I discovered my fight or flight response.
Oh.
So I was in Sri Lanka for just looking around a wildlife park, and the guides there were saying, "Oh, well, as you walk around, you might be lucky enough to see a leopard or whatnot in the park," and it was like, oh, okay. So we went round, and after 2 or 3 hours, we saw nothing. It was beautiful, it was nice, it was good fun, but we saw nothing. So we went back to the park centre where they had a nice few exhibits in there. You can walk around the exhibits and see the history of the park. And as I was walking through one of the corridors, I got to a door, and as I got to the door on the right-hand side of my viewpoint, I saw something. I don't know what, because before I even knew what I saw, I was already running, screaming down the corridor. And all of my friends who were behind me saw me just run off and go, what was that all about? And they went down went down to the corridor and looked in, and in the corridor was a stuffed leopard in attack pose, ready to strike. And I came back and it was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I found I run rather than fight.
Yeah, that's good, important to know about yourself. I mean,
Exactly.
it's just self-aware, you know. It's in good contrast to the story of the person who saw the tiger and was kind of like, what? And then the person who saw the bear and decided to go after it. I mean, I think we're getting a pretty wide spectrum of reactions to wildlife here.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
very cool.
Also, apparently, very good taxidermy done.
Exactly.
Yeah, not like the other taxidermy story where you're like, so the first jaguars, oh, could have been better, you know?
Cool. Could someone
Thank
take
you.
a picture?
Yeah, my name is Mats. I'm originally from Belgium, but I've been living here in Berlin for a while. And my story is about something that's very hard to show in a museum. It takes place in the Grunewald, which is a forest just outside of Berlin. And I often go running there. And occasionally you'll see some wildlife, like foxes or wild boar. But being wild animals, they just run away from you. They never come close. But one day I was on a run, kind of late. It was getting dark, but I had my head torch with me, so it wasn't a problem. And then you can see the reflections in the eyes of each animal. So you don't see the animals, but you can kind of see like 2 bright dots darting across the street, for example. And at one moment I turned a corner, and there was this mass of tiny white eyes. The wild boar really don't look impressive if you see just the reflection of their eyes. But they were very close to me, and they weren't running away. They were like, well, it's nighttime, it's our time. Go somewhere else. So yeah, I took the detour, and it was amazing to see how different their behavior is daytime versus nighttime.
So they were wild boar.
Yeah, there was a whole group of them.
But aren't they big?
Yeah. But they were just standing there. They were like, yeah, I'm not going to attack you, but you're not going through here.
Yeah, like, excuse me, sir, I don't know what you were thinking. This area is closed now.
Exactly.
No more people for the
It's
evening.
after hours.
Yeah, that's amazing. I have a similar running story. I was in a park by my house, and it's by a lake, and I was jogging, and I turned a corner, and there was a flock of like 30 Canada geese, and I was like thinking, well, I'll just go through them. And I start walking, and they turn, and they're like, you're not coming through here. And so I'm an idiot. So I had my phone out. I made like an Instagram story. I was like, we're going to document this. And so I was like, I'm going to make a running go for it. And so I kind of backed up, and I started jogging and getting closer. They all came at me. They were like, no, you're really not coming through here. And I was so terrified. I turned and went the other way and ran into someone. And I was like, don't go that way. Don't go that way. There are dinosaurs coming for you. Well, I'm glad that you had a pleasant encounter with some wild boars. I've always wanted to see one, but they're big, I think. I thought they would be like...
They're like really big.
Yeah.
You have state fairs, right?
Yeah.
Like really, really huge pig and with hairs.
Nah, too much like Game of Thrones. Yeah, we know how that ended.
I'm so excited.
Oh, me too.
So my Explore story is about how...
Wait, your name first.
I'm Eva. Hi, I'm from Stuttgart. It's in the south of Germany. Yeah, it's about how it's important. It was important for me to be weird and stay weird, kind of.
Okay.
When I was a child, I always wanted to go to the museum and see the dinosaurs. Always, every weekend, my dad had to go with me there and look at dinosaurs. And then I always wanted to go to the planetarium, and I was taking all of my friends there, and they were all like crying. The sky is going to fall on top of me, and I was enjoying it a bit too much, I guess. And that's when I realized it was a bit weird that I enjoyed it and everybody else didn't, or was scared, I guess. Then I also enjoyed it to look at dead things and babies in jars and stuff like that. And when I found your videos, you were also saying that, well, I just dissected this thing and I enjoyed it. Am I weird? Is it kind of not okay that I'm feeling that way? And it is okay, and that you should kind of just stick with it. If you're interested, you should just go with it. And when I was giving birth to my daughter, I kind of went to the hospital with a bucket, like, could you put my placenta in there? They're all like, yeah, of course, we can put it in there, but what are you going to do with it? Yeah, it's an organ, I made it. Can I have it, please?
Yeah. This is my property, and you don't understand. That baby, this placenta, what else can I get away with here?
Yeah. I mean, if you're passionate and it's weird, then it's just weird.
Yeah. That's really neat. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I asked for was my teeth when they pulled them, and
I was also asking for those teeth from everybody.
Like, that belongs to me. Excuse me. Can I have that?
Yeah, I made that.
Can I put that in
please?
My weird collection of my own body parts that I'm preserving for no explicable reason?
I made a necklace with those teeth.
Did you really? You could have been like, these are the teeth of my enemy, but actually these are
friends.
It's okay to be weird.
Yeah.
We're all a little strange here, so great, thank you.
Thank you, Can I have a picture?
So I'm Katie. I live in Berlin. And I've been thinking a little bit because I kind of have a lot of stories I could tell, but I guess the one I'm going to tell is took place in Bolivia. So I went to Bolivia for a month with my dad on holidays, or like vacation. Like we traveled around, and we took a trip to the area where there are rivers which go into the Amazonas River. But like it's not quite there, but it like further up the stream. And you can take guided tours there, and it's kind of cool because you get to see a lot of wildlife which lives there. There are capybara, which are these huge... what is the name for it?
Rodents?
Rodents, yeah. These huge rodents which hang out at the river, and crocodiles and alligators, and you can go swimming with pink dolphins.
Oh,
so
better than swimming with crocodiles.
Well, the crocodiles are close by, but you can also go swimming with crocodiles, I guess.
Ooh, I'll pass.
So yeah, lots of very cool experience, getting very close to all these animals. But like one thing which kind of was a bit irritating to me, like one day we went to like find snakes. It's like boa constrictors, and I've always been fascinated with snakes. So this was also, I found it quite cool to get also close to snakes. But what kind of I didn't like as much is that they picked up the snakes and let like the tourists touch them and stuff. So I was like, yeah, I mean, it's cool to get close to the animals and see them, like also in the natural habitat, which you otherwise don't get to do. But like, should you be touching them really? Like just handing them off to the next person?
Yeah.
And that I didn't like that. And I think while it's cool to get these experiences and to get close to animals, I think you should also be aware, like, to stay away from like entering their life too much, and like also respecting that they are like living beings and be respectful towards that. So also in thinking about conservation of these animals, which are also probably maybe going extinct soon. We should not just go around and touch everything.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think we all can, have a respectful distance between us and nature, and cohabitating sometimes involves just leaving one another where they are. Like the wild boars won't attack you on your jog in the middle of the night, and maybe you shouldn't go pick up a random snake. And
Yeah,
you find in the
you
jungle.
should probably not go touch the boars just because you see them.
Right, no. I don't think I mean, they sound pretty terrifying from what I've heard here.
Oh yeah, actually just a quick note on the boars, because you brought it up again. They are getting closer and closer, at least in Berlin, to where humans live, because their food sources are running out. So they approach territory they weren't approaching before.
Yeah.
So that's also like kind of interesting, but also terrifying for the humans to have the boars come closer.
You know, I think we could use a challenge when we walk out of our houses. Well, just put ourselves out of our comfort zones a little bit on occasion. Just, keep that fight or flight response active. Yeah. Stop looking at your phones when you're walking down the street. You might get attacked by a boar. Hopefully not, but anyway.
I mean, you can go your way and just Instagram it.
Yeah, yep, because I'm smart. Don't do that. Don't do that. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Dorian. I'm French, and my story takes place in Paris at the National Museum of Natural History. And so at the time I was just 5. Yeah, I was probably 5. And I visited that museum, and at the time I had only seen some documentaries about the natural world and animals and stuff like that. So these animals were quite mythical creatures to me because I'd never seen them in real life. And so I went to this museum and I discovered this amazing collection of taxidermized animals and skulls, and they have this huge whale skulls, and it's amazing. And so it was the first time I was so overwhelmed by nature. So I started asking questions like, how do they swim with these huge bodies and so tiny limbs? Because it didn't make any sense to me at that time. And that's how I started asking questions, and I got interested in science and dinosaurs. Basically, I was one of these Jurassic Park kids,
Yeah.
And and that's the first time I got interested in nature and science. And here I am 20 years later, still being curious and asking questions.
Good. That mission accomplished. Yeah, museums.
Yeah, museums.
Yeah. Every time I go to an ocean, I look out there and it's like, that's where the whales are. All of them. Like all of them. They're just
where they pee and they poo.
Where they pee and they poo and they eat and they live and they breathe. And they left at one point. They were like, we're going to try this land thing out. And then they came on land and then they're like, not for us. And they went back. That's what blows my mind about whales and cetaceans and things, is that they started in the ocean, they left the ocean, and then they're like, let's get back in there. And the evolution. Mind-blowing. Yeah. Cool. All right, thank you. Great. Cool. Yeah. Yay! 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 Hey, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode of ExploreAStory. You can always shoot us an email with feedback at exploreastory@fieldmuseum.org, and keep submitting your environmental sounds. It's so fun to hear where you are in the world. Anyway, you can keep looking forward to a new episode every other week in the iTunes Store, on our website, exploreastory.com, it's all one word, or most places where podcasts can be found, and on YouTube at youtube.com/thebrainscoop. ExploreAStory is hosted by me, Emily Grassley. Our guests today were from all over the world, so thanks to those of you who shared your story. The show is produced by Brandon Brengard and Sherry Arasan with music from Jason Weidner and is made possible with support from the Field Museum in Chicago, Illinois.